to the next episode of EPM Confessions and Chronicles. We are here with Martin Overton. Martin, could you please introduce yourself and your EPM journey?
Hey Tim, well, thank you for having me on. It's such a pleasure to be here and speaking with you and to share my EPM journey, really. And you know, that journey is 23, 24 years in. I got into EPM by accident. I know most people say that, but I didn't come from the accounting background. I was actually a software engineer. That was my degree. And I just, I'm from Yorkshire. I just happened to be applying for a job. There was a job in York. And in fact, the funny thing is, this job was advertised as a senior role, but a recruiter put me through for it. And I went to the interview. It was with a company called Adaytum, if you remember Adaytum from back in the day. And within 5 minutes of the interview, the guy interviewing me, who is still a good friend today, actually, he stopped me and said, "Look, you're not qualified for this job, are you? We know that, you know that, but we quite like you. Let's keep chatting, but let's change the conversation." And then they actually created a role for me, which was a more junior development role. So, there I got to work with a great team. People like Michael Gould, who later went on to found Anaplan, were part of that team. So that was my entry into EPM. And then, of course, over the years, Adaytum was acquired by Cognos. Cognos was acquired by IBM. Spent 15 years in that ecosystem. We'll probably touch on this later, but I obviously transitioned out of development into more field-based roles and product management as well. I did spend a couple of years at IBM with back working with Michael. 4.5 years at Jedox as well in that journey, and for the last almost 1 year now, I've been with Pigment, and it's absolutely amazing to be here. So I've kind of lived through those sort of 3 generations of planning product that we talk about.
Fantastic. A little bit of a quirky question. When you kind of explain what you do to others in terms of your profession, have you had any misconceptions?
Well, no one really understands what I do. I'm from a mining town in Yorkshire, and my friends and family just all they understand is I work in computers. Normally followed up by the line, "Oh, my printer's broken. Can you help me?" But actually, Tim, I do have a kind of a true and funny story from this weekend. I went for my haircut on Saturday. I went to the barber's, and she's cutting my hand. She says, "Oh, where have you been this week? Where are you going next week?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to our offices in London. I'm going to our offices in Passion." "You must have such a good job. What do you do?" I said, "Well, it's important that you make my hair look good because I've got this, podcast appearance coming up with a very famous guy called Tim Hammett." No. But she said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, think of it like this. This is just a small barber shop. They have like 3 people and 2 seats." And I said, "When you're planning your staff rota, how do you do that?" And she pointed to the calendar on the wall and she said, "Well, it's all on there." I said, "Now imagine if you had these 2 seats and you had 10 people to plan for the rota. What would you do? Maybe you'd use something like Excel." And she joked and said, "I can't even use a computer, but maybe I'd get my daughter to use a spreadsheet for me." And I said, "Well, let's scale that up and imagine you had 100 shops with 10 or 15 people in each shop, and you needed to plan the rota, the shift, understand, the compensation for all those people. That's where you might use something like EPM, which is the software that, that we deal with." And she did say at the end, "Oh, I think I'll stick with my small barber shop," but that's okay. She's in ICP for what we're trying to do here too.
Oh, fantastic. No, that was a great explanation. So what's been your biggest challenge in EPM and how have you overcome that?
Well, it's been a long time, but for me personally, as I mentioned, I've been through a couple of acquisitions. They're always like stressful times for me. I mean, often you worry about things because you don't know what's coming next. You can't plan, which is very important to us in the industry. It's generally worked out well. I mean, Adaytum to Cognos worked out very well for me. That was the catalyst to allow me to step outside of development and go into a field role and a more senior role. But then I think it was around 3 years after that, Cognos actually acquired Applix and the TM1 technology. And then just within a month or two of that, IBM acquired Cognos. Obviously, there was the big BI business. There was also the planning or performance management business. And this was painful because there were now two technologies internally. There was Cognos planning that had come out of Adaytum, and there was also TM1, of course, from Applix. And I was the product manager at that time for Cognos planning, which to me it's still close to my heart. It was a great product. Very scalable in terms of the number of users it could meet with the distributed architecture. But TM1 was very scalable in terms of data. It had the 64-bit in-memory OLAP technology, of course. We had plans for a 64-bit version of Cognos planning, but of course 2 into 1 don't go. Cognos planning was streamlined, signed, and TM1 was the go-forward technology. So that was painful. To lose at the time what kind of felt like my baby. I mean, I didn't dwell on it. I did leave IBM for a couple of years, but later I came back actually as part of the product management team for IBM Planning Analytics, as TM1 had then become. But at the time it felt really tough.
Fantastic. So side by side to that, what's your memorable say success story in EPM?
I mean, it'd be a bit cliche to talk about a particular project and the value it delivered. Let's say that's a given. For me personally, I mentioned that Cognos brought that opportunity for me to move out of development into the field. They had a team actually called the Enterprise Response Team, it was called. We were kind of the firefighters, and I became the Cognos planning technical specialist there. So, we would get dispatched to any important project or any pre-sales situation that required real technical resource, maybe like some load stress testing or stress testing, things like that. Get put on site. I was trusted to do that, working with the biggest customers all across EMEA, and in fact, in some cases across the world. But I didn't really know whether I was doing a great job or not. But then in 2006, just a couple of years into that job, I was awarded by the EMEA MVP of the year at Cognos, which was selected by the CEO. So, to me, that was real validation, and that gave me the confidence to kick on and build a long and lasting career in EPM. But the second story is not about me, it's about someone else, and it's just a good news story I'd like to share. I mentioned Michael Gould, earlier, and Michael's such a nice guy. I mean, even away from work, he's just one of life's good guys and givers. So to see him have conviction, to leave Cognos, I think it was, or IBM, I'm not sure of the timing, to pursue his own thing and his own beliefs and to grow that into Anaplan, and to see him, on that podium as part of the bell ringing at the New York Stock Exchange when Anaplan IPO'd. I was long left Anaplan by then, but just it was really nice to sit and watch that with pride, really. So from a barn in Yorkshire to Wall Street, I think that's just really great. And I do believe actually that history could well repeat itself because now at Pigment, I have the pleasure of working with Roman Nicoli and Eleanor Crespo. Two great founders, and I really believe something similar could and will happen again.
Cool. Could you share an unexpected moment in your career or a funny moment such as that, which you can share with us?
Yeah, I've actually got two, Tim, quite different. I mentioned when I was with Cognos that I was, flying away to site, and they did once ask me to go to Australia. There's a big project in Australia in trouble. Can you go over there just for 1 week? Yeah, sure, no problem. So, off I get on the flight to Sydney, and 1 week turned into 2, and 2 weeks turned into 3, and so on. And by the time I got home, our house was up for sale, and my wife, we sold the house. She'd purchased a new one. She obviously did a good job because we still live there today. But how times changed whilst I was away. And then I guess the next one, and this just relates to things I've learned over the years, which come in really useful for my role now. Just the different cultures in the different countries that you work in,
Sure.
even around Europe. I remember, again, in that role, once going to Spain to a customer in Madrid. Got a real problem, so I'm up at 4, early flight to Spain, because to get on site at any reasonable time with the hour time difference, you have to be up early. I did convened a little war room, as I always did when I got on site, make the plans for the day, and then, started work, debugging this problem, trying to get to the bottom of this problem. And, when you're on the edge of finding something, and I was almost there, and the clock struck 12, and everyone got up and said, right, lunchtime. And I said, well, can you give me just 5 minutes? I think I'm close here. Oh, no, it's lunchtime. So I've flown over it. I thought this was really important. Well, nothing's as important as lunch. So, off we trot. They take me to the local place, giving me the cured ham and the rioja. 3 hours later, we get back to the office. Well, I may as well been a week away from solving it, because nothing was going to do after that. And then I had to sit at the desk pretending to tap the keys till like 8, 9 p.m. before the guys over there leave, and said to them the next day, if you just restructured your day a little bit, you'd have so much more productive time. But yeah, that was funny. It was a learning, and I appreciate that. Lunch is more important than work sometimes.
Completely. Yeah, so you've had a lot of experience with different technologies, different EPM. What's your kind of best practice advice to fellow professionals out there?
Yeah, well, as I said, I'm going to give something that relates to the role that I do at the moment, because as I said, my role has evolved over the years. At Pigment, I lead the EMEA solution consulting team, so a pre-sales team working across EMEA, an unbelievably talented bunch of human beings. But what we always have to bear in mind, of course, we provide great value to prospects, but what I'd call out is that, remember, the prospect is the buyer. Okay?
Yeah.
You've got to meet them on their journey. We all like to think internally we're going to have this whole sales, but that's our journey. You've got to meet the prospect on their journey, be personal, and be a partner. And a couple other things I'd say related to this is that, if you're not the right fit, if you're not going to bring sufficient value in solving their problem, be honest about it. It's the buyer's journey. It's not for us to, impress our software on that organization or that buyer, and even recommend other technologies that in the market that might be a better fit. And I would sum that up by saying, be a partner, not a vendor. Which reminds me to say that, there isn't often a one-size-fits-all solution. The best engine for financial consolidation is unlikely to provide the intuitive and adaptable platform required for operational planning. Nor does it follow that, the solution offered by your ERP vendor, just because they can package it up nicely, it doesn't mean it's the right one for you. So I would say, Tim, always test the market, ensure you're making the right decision as you embark on this EPM journey as a buyer, and make sure it feels like a real partnership with the vendor, someone who you trust and whose products can innovate and scale with you.
Fantastic. What would be your crucial piece of advice for newcomers or novices in our industry?
Yeah, good question. I would say, find the best mentor you possibly can. You run a great network of professionals. It's a small world, many people know each other. There's a couple of schools. There's the stack that I've come through, which is like Adaytum, Anaplan, into Pigment now. There's the, Oracle, Hyperion route, and Outlook Soft, SAP, Business Objects, whatever it may be. But, there's good people out there. And I would say, find the best mentor you possibly can in these communities, people who you think are unapproachable, or maybe you're looking at them up here. No, everybody loves to talk EPM. Everyone loves to help each other out. So find the best mentor you can.
Okay, thank you so much. What's your current views of the EPM landscape, and how do you keep abreast of the trends and things like that?
Well, how I keep abreast of the trends is, again, following the online communities, the online markets, looking what different vendors, different partners are doing. Obviously, keeping abreast of what the the analysts are saying. I mean, they're the obvious stuff. But when I give my personal lens on the EPM market, I'm going to simplify it and say, I know there's more categories, but it's divided into two broad categories, really. You've got like statutory and regulatory reporting and financial consolidation, if you like, and then operational planning. Now, for me personally, operational planning is always where I've been. I love that. I love the variety of different problems. Every opportunity, every week is a different problem to solve in a different industry, often with a different use case. So that's the market I'll talk about here. And it gets said a lot. We're in the third generation of tooling, if you like, what I would call personally the true SaaS era. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Well, as I said, I kind of lived through them all. So, Gen 1 was those on-premise solutions, right? Like Adaytum, like Cognos, Hyperion, S-Base, Outlooksoft. As we know, and many of your other contributors have said, they were all acquired around 2007, 2008, by the mega vendors, the IBMs, Oracles, SAPs. Still some good technology out there today, but innovation stops. Things change when those mega vendors acquire you, and it leads to new opportunity. So then there was the second generation, the Gen 2, often with people, like Michael, who I referenced, who have left those mega vendors, Adaptive, Jedox, Board, Anaplan, Host Analytics, the list could go on. Some are still independent, but we've now seen quite a few of them being acquired again, obviously in the case of Adaptive, gone public and even gone private again in the case of Anaplan. Still innovating, but at a slower pace. And I generally describe these as cloud migrations or cloud hosted, which is different to true SaaS. They were on-premise software or could have been delivered on-premise. It's more hosting in the cloud, economies of scale, etc. But now I feel we're in the early stages of this third generation. This is the true SaaS software where innovation is so much quicker. A lot more about your customers and their usage of the platform than even they may know themselves. And that allows you to, as I say, innovate and deliver value much quicker. And I think it's this third generation of platforms that can move much quicker to pick up on emerging trends like AI, as we see it at the moment. So, it's not that everyone can't do anything with AI, but how quickly can you embed it? How quickly can you show value, and how quickly can you iterate as the market is changing quickly? And even within this space, Tim, I see it that, the customer has a choice. Yeah. Still these two schools of thought. There's the more templated approach, more mid-market, one or two specific use cases, or there's the platform approach, which is where, Pigment obviously sits. And to me, I would say that the platform approach to me is the way forward, particularly for upmarket, enterprise, strategic companies, because, to align those different functional areas on one common platform, with true real-time sharing of those dimensions, those metrics, you start to get a compound value almost. The more use cases you solve for, the more pervasive it becomes in the organization. And speaking at Pigment, where I am now, Pigment does this, without limitations, and that's why I think, that's where I think the third gen platforms are going.
Fantastic. So related to that, really, where do you see the future in the next 5 years regarding our industry?
Yeah, well, I think we're still in the early stages of this third generation. So I think these true SaaS solutions, they've got a few years of runway yet to build great businesses and value. I don't see that, any of them are really big enough and delivering enough value yet to be an interesting acquisition target or a public target. It's going to take, a few years to build that value. I think we'll still see the remaining independent Gen 2 vendors being acquired. I mean, that's just my personal guess. I have no crystal ball. But in terms of capability on these platforms, AI will undoubtedly play a big part. And as I mentioned, I think these modern SaaS tech stacks will be able to innovate quicker. And And people want a platform that can integrate with their existing tech stack. And nowadays, this is a cloud-based tech stack. It's not so much the on-prem ERP solutions, it's the cloud ERP solutions, the cloud big data platforms. And these platforms need to be intuitive for end users. I think in the past, certainly in Gen 1, maybe in Gen 2 as well, the end user was a little bit forgotten about. And I think the winners in the market will be those who look after the end users, provide real value. I think the ability to analyze data, plan quickly, collaborate to uncover those insights is paramount. And having great analysis and visualization capabilities, it was once the preserve of BI tools, and you would often blend BI and performance management tools together. Well, I think it's now a given that the EPM tool has to offer that. But let's not forget about the model builder. I mean, they're still really important. Of course they are. They're the lifeblood of the industry. But it's the most adaptable platforms that I think will win for the model builder. So, the world moves quickly. We don't need to reiterate what's happened over the last few years, but change continues to happen. It always seems to be quicker than it was in the past. And these platforms need to be owned by the business. I don't want to be depending on a big external consultancy to remodel and restructure my models so that I can change. I need to be able to take control of that myself. So things like the ability to run scenarios, and I think that strategic planning generally. It used to be about bottom up, which is still very important, and bottom up meeting top down. Now I think it's a lot about strategy and being able to make big strategic decisions and look around the corner in that sense and play with different scenarios first. So that's where I think the EPM market is heading, Tim.
Fantastic. Just another kind of question, really, from your thoughts. What do you think of the current EPM job market?
I mean, I think it's quite buoyant. These things, as we talked about with they go in cycles. For every technology area that's diminishing, there's another one taking over. So as a whole, look, there's not many things that every business needs to do, but every business needs to report their results. Every business needs to plan for the future. So, in some senses, it is not immune, but protects it a little bit from downturns. And so what I would say to people is, there's always opportunity there, but play the long game. Find the right company or a partner in the ecosystem that's working with the best, most interesting, upwardly mobile EPM technologies. But more important than anything, has the right leadership.
Yes.
My career has always flourished when I've worked for great leaders, and because great leaders build great companies. And, I've mentioned a few already, but I'll mention a couple more. Guy Haddleton, who was the CEO of Adaytum and later the CEO of Anaplan in the early days, he was a great leader, built great EPM businesses. When Cognos acquired Adaytum, Ron Zambanini was just transitioning over to Rob Ash. Real visionaries, those guys in Canada. Built great value, great business, sold to IBM, of course. I already mentioned Michael Gould at Anaplan. I mean, what an amazing story. And now I work with, Roman and Eleanor here at Pigment. And it's really interesting to be working with people actually from outside the EPM space who bring a different mindset to challenge that traditional EPM thinking, the high tech, high growth, VC investment kind of portfolio mindset. But in summary, play the long game. The future is worth more than what you can extract today in terms of salary, etc. And try and find great leaders and grow with them.
Thank you. Thank you for all that advice and insights. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and definitely keep in touch, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, likewise. A real pleasure, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you so much.